This is Chris Videos. Like, subscribe to Team W Wrestling on YouTube. Subscribe to my other channel, World of Chris, and subscribe to this channel, Chris Videos, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and both of my TikToks. It'll all be down there in the description box. And I'm here to do my AEW Full Gear 2022 reviews. So here we go, discussing about Full Gear. Now we're talking about the 0 hour first of the pre-show, the kickoff show. And they got a few matches up here, but we're going to be talking about the first one. And it was a 10-man tag team match, 5 versus 5 match. So here we go, discussing about it. It was Trent Beretta, Chuck Taylor, and Orange Cassidy, best friends, teaming up with Rocky Romero and their mystery tag team partner, which it wasn't really a mystery like that, Danhausen, versus QT Marshall, Nick Comoroto, Lee Johnson, Aaron Solo, and Colt Carter, The Factory, in a 10-man tag team match. And we had the 10-man tag team match underway. Now, Danhausen was not out there at first. It was just pretty much 5 versus 4. It was like a handicap match, but best friends and stuff was doing pretty good. So everybody's going at it and everything. And like the Factory's getting the upper hand, but then all of a sudden Danhausen's theme song hits, and he comes out looking very evil. He comes out there, teeth showing, a jar full of teeth, and a spike in one hand. Comes down there and gets tagged in and starts beating the hell out of everybody. German suplexing QT, beating down Lee Johnson, hit a German suplex on him. But then at the ending, it was Nick Comoroto that was the one tagged in. He threw him into the corner, and then that's where Orange Cassidy comes in with the orange punch onto Nick Comoroto. Danhausen grabs the jar of teeth, dumps it into Comorato's mouth, and then hits a big boot to the side of the head onto him, getting the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, best friends Danhausen and Rocky Romero defeated the Factory tonight in the 10-man tag team match. That's what happened. And then after the match ended, QT Marshall was trying to attack Danhausen from behind. Danhausen quickly turned around, caught him. But then QT Marshall was like, okay, I'm getting out the ring. He gets out the ring, and then best friends throws him back into the ring. And then Danhausen had a spike in his hand, hits him upside the head with the spike, laying him out. So, yeah. For that match, I'll give it 2 stars. That's why I'll give it. It was an okay match, but yeah. There's still many more matches to come on the 0 hour. But next it'll be Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage in the World Championship Eliminator tournament match. So yeah, that match will be happening up next. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Until then. So the next thing to happen on the Full Gear 0 hour show, we got the next match. But before I talk about that match, we got Renee Paquette interviewing Konosuke Takeshita backstage, and yeah, he is a part of All Elite Wrestling now. He signed a contract apparently today, and he was saying how happy he is to join AEW and stuff like that. That was just pretty much it. But then we get to the next match. It was Brian Cage with Prince Nana versus Absolute Ricky Starks in the semifinals of the World Championship Eliminator Tournament match. So yeah, winner of this match faces Ethan Page this Wednesday on Dynamite in the finals of the tournament. And then obviously winner of the tournament will be taking on whoever's the AEW World Champion by winter is coming. So yeah, we get to the match, and it was an okay match. Brian Cage was dominating majority of this match because he was going after the injured ribs of Ricky Starks, kept on going after it. At the ending, Brian Cage climbed up the top turnbuckle, jumping off with the elbow drop, but Ricky Starks moved out the way, and Brian Cage crashed and burned. And then Ricky Starks picks up Brian Cage, trying to hit Rochambeau onto him, but then Brian Cage picks him up, about to hit the F5 onto Ricky Starks, but Ricky Starks reverses it by landing on his feet and then hitting a Canadian Destroyer onto Cage, and then he picks up Brian Cage, hitting Rochambeau onto him, and then pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, Ricky Starks defeated Brian Cage tonight in the tournament, semifinals of the tournament. So yeah, it was an okay match. But then after the match ended, we see Ethan Page come out, and he's just standing on the ramp, staring down Ricky Starks, both of them staring at each other. So yeah, this Wednesday on Dynamite, it will be Ricky Starks versus Ethan Page one-on-one in the finals of the tournament. So for that match between Ricky Starks and Brian Cage, I'll give it 2.5 stars. That's why I'll give it. It was a pretty good, okay match. So yeah, that's how much I'll give that match. But up next, we're going to be seeing Eddie Kingston in action. Up next on Full Gear. I think it's just 3 matches on the pre-show. So yeah. But yeah, that match will be happening up next. Eddie Kingston's. So yeah, see you guys later. Until then. Now we have the next match. It was the 3rd match on the pre-show, the 0 hour of Full Gear, and it was the last match on the in the 1 hour pre-show or whatever. So yeah, before I talk about the match, we gotta talk about Eddie Kingston getting interviewed backstage by Renee Paquette. Kingston was talking about, not really, kind of like, it was somewhat talking about how he can't wait until he gets in the ring with Akiyama and stuff like that, and he'll just show. So yeah, but we get to the match: Eddie Kingston versus Jun Akiyama in a one-on-one match, and it was a pretty good match. At one point, we see Akiyama hit the knee to the face onto Kingston, which was pretty brutal, and then he pinned him, but Kingston kicked out at 2, and then Kingston got back up, hitting a Northern Light bomb onto Akiyama, and then pins him, but Akiyama barely kicking out at 2 as well. Kingston lifted Akiyama up, and then hits that back fist onto him, and then pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, Eddie Kingston defeated Jun Akiyama tonight in a one-on-one match on Full Gear. That's what happened. And then after the match ended, Eddie Kingston starts tearing up a little bit, bows down to Akiyama, and Akiyama bows down to him. Both of them shook hands, hug each other, and yeah, that was it from that. But yeah, Eddie Kingston grabs the mic and he says, how much time does he got? They say he only got like 2 minutes, and then they got to hype up the show and everything. And Kingston starts talking about like, thank you everybody for showing up, and just don't be thanking me, thank yourselves, the fans, everybody else. And he says rest in peace to pretty much a bunch of Japanese legends like Antonio Inoki and all them. So yeah, that's what Kingston was saying, and then he was talking about some of the matches or whatever with MJF and John Moxley and Tony Storm and all that, and yeah, hyping up the show. But yeah, that's what happened there, and we get to the pay-per-view up next. The official AEW Full Gear card, which will be up next. So yeah, for that match between Kingston and Akiyama, I'll give it 2.5 stars. That's what I'll give it. It was a pretty good match. That was probably match of the pre-show pretty much. I would say that's probably my favorite off the pre-show, between that and Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. That was a pretty good one too. So yeah, but up next we got the next Full Gear show, the whole thing up next. So yeah, I'll be talking about that for sure. Bunch of matches to come, like 10 matches onto the official match card. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Until then. So, we finally make it to the actual show. The Full Gear show off the 0 hour, which if you want to go see the other videos, go check it out. I got it posted up of the 3 matches from the 0 hour. But now we're on the official match card for Full Gear. And we get to the first match on the official match card. It was Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Luchasaurus with Christian Cage at ringside in a steel cage match. And it was a pretty good steel cage match. It was pretty much back and forth. Luchasaurus was dominating at first. He busted Jungle Boy wide open. And his finisher move at one point trying to get the 3 count, but Jungle Boy kicked out at 2 and everything. Both of them going at it and all that. And then at one point, the referee was distracted outside of the ring. Christian Cage grabs the keys, unlocking the door, but then the referee notices it and calls for security. They pull Christian Cage back to the backstage area. So yeah, he's not around no more after that. But the door was unlocked, and Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus was brawling outside of the ring. We see Jungle Boy get catapulted to the steel cage outside of the ring and stuff. going at it, and then Luchasaurus grabs a table from underneath the ring, and they brought in some steel chairs and all that's in the ring now, and they're back into the ring now. Remember, steel cage matches in AEW does not end by climbing out of the cage or walking out the door, nothing like that. It can only be over by pinfall or submission, like an old steel cage match used to be back in the day, up until WWE pretty much changed the rules to it. But yeah, that's the only ways that you can win this match. So yeah, they get back into the ring, they're going at it back and forth and everything. They use the steel chairs, like Luchasaurus at one point chokeslammed Jungle Boy on the steel chair, but he kicked out at 2. Jungle Boy actually hits the kill switch onto Luchasaurus onto a steel chair, but Luchasaurus barely kicking out at 2 as well. Like I said, back and forth and everything. They bring in the table, and Luchasaurus set up the table, and he was trying to hit his finisher move onto Jungle Boy through the table, but Jungle Boy, slipped off his shoulders and locking on the sleeper hold, making Luchasaurus pretty much passing out for a little bit. He places him onto the table, but then Luchasaurus starts getting back up a little bit. Jungle Boy grabs a steel chair, whacks him in the head with it, and then he climbs up the steel cage, jumping off the top of the steel cage with the elbow drop onto Luchasaurus through the table, and then locks on the snare trap onto Luchasaurus, making him tap out, and Jungle Boy came out victorious. Now his mom and them was sitting at ringside, so yeah, but it was a really good match. I actually used a Tombstone Power Driver at one point in this match. Luchasaurus had won on to Jungle Boy. So yeah. But yeah, like I said, I like the match. It was a really good match to kick off the show. I'll give this match 4 stars. That's why I'll give it really good opening match. Steel cage match. I like the steel cage match. It was a really good one. Now, this feud between Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus is probably over for the meantime. They'll probably continue back with the feud with Christian Cage and Jungle Boy, but obviously that feud looks like it's going to be paused for right now because Christian's going to be out for a few months, with his injury. So up until he comes back, maybe the feud will come back again, which would probably be the best thing to do. Like, Jungle Boy needs to move on for a little bit, go do his own thing, and then come back with Christian Cage eventually down the line after he recovers from his injury. But that's how I see it as after this match. But like I said, really good match between Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. Go check it out if you have yet. I'll give that match 4 stars, and yeah. I'll see you guys later until the next thing that happens on AEW Full Gear. See you guys later until then. So the next thing that happened on AEW Full Gear 2022, it was the next match. It was the AEW Trios Tag Team Champions, Pac, Rey Fenix, and Penta El Zero Miedo Death Triangle versus Kenny Omega and Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, the Elite, in a 6-man tag team match for the AEW Trios Tag Team Championships. The Elite had pretty cool entrance and stuff, talking about Forgotten in the Past or some stuff like that. But yeah, pretty cool entrance from them. And this match, it was a really good match. It was back and forth and everything. The Elite was doing good. Death Triangle was doing pretty good. It was for the tag team titles and everything. And it was just a back and forth match. Pac actually got busted open from the nose, it looked like, during this match. And, at one point we seen Rey Fenix hitting like a Hurricane Rana, I think, or onto one of the Young Bucks, onto everybody outside the ring, which was wild. At one point, Pac was going to pick up the win for the team when he hit the Black Arrow onto Kenny Omega's back, and then locked on the Brutalizer up until the Young Bucks, and then broke up the submission. Everybody was going at it. At one point, we see the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega hitting a triple Tombstone Power Drivers onto Death Triangle. So, just saying, too many tombstones, because it's the second match, pretty much, with tombstones, and there's been about 4 of them, which it needs to calm down a little bit, but it was still a pretty good match. But yeah, it was, like I said, back and forth and everything. At one point, we see the Young Bucks, actually, just the Elite itself, hitting a double super kick and the V-trigger onto Phoenix, I think. And then they almost got the 3 count, but the pin got broken up and stuff. And at one point, Pac grabs a hammer, try to hit Kenny Omega with the hammer up, and so he got hit with a super kick. And then at one point, he actually gave Ray Phoenix grabbed a hammer, but he decided not to use at one point. And then we get to the very ending where the Young Bucks take out Pac and Penta, and it looks like Kenny Omega is about to finish Ray Phoenix because Phoenix is laying there on the second rope. That's when Pac hands him the hammer. Phoenix grabs the hammer. Omega then sets him up for the one-winged angel onto Ray Phoenix. Now, the referee was pretty much behind them, so he couldn't see it. But Phoenix had the hammer in his hand. He smacked Kenny Omega upside the head with the hammer and then rolled him up for the 3 count. So, yeah, Death Triangle defeated the Elite tonight to retain the AEW Trios Tag Team Championships. Well, that's what happened. Really good match. I really liked it. Probably match of the night, maybe. But we still got to see because we still got the whole card. For this match, I'll give it 4.5 stars. That's why I'll give it a really good title match. I really liked it. But up next, it looks like it'll be the TBS Women's Champion, Jade Cargill, versus Nyla Rose, one-on-one for the TBS Women's Championship up next on Full Gear. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Until then. So the next thing that happened on AEW Full Gear, it was a one-on-one match. It was the TBS Women's Champion, Jade Cargill with the baddies at ringside versus Nyla Rose with Vicky Guerrero at ringside in a one-on-one match for the TBS Women's Championship. And this match, it was whatever. It was okay. It wasn't too bad. There was some botches and stuff, but it wasn't like stupid. At one point, they brawled in the crowd and they came back into the ring and stuff. Nyla Rose actually stole Jade Cargill's finisher move at one point, trying to get the 3 count, but Jade kicked out at 2. By the way, I forgot to mention, Jade Cargill's attire is, I think, inspired by Thundercat, they said. So, yeah, I never watched Thundercat, but yeah, that's what they said is inspired by. So, yeah. But, yeah, it was back and forth and everything. At one point, we actually see Jade using her strength to hit a sit-out powerbomb onto Nyla Rose, but Nyla Rose kicked out at 2. But then we get to the very ending of this match where Nyla Rose taking control of this match. She climbs up the top turnbuckle, jumps off with a swanton bomb, but misses because Jade moved out the way. And then Jade hits her finisher move, Jaded onto Nyla Rose, pinning her for the 3 count. So yeah, Jade Cargill defeated Nyla Rose for the TBS Women's Championship tonight on Full Gear. So yeah, she retained her title, and for that match, I'll just give it 1.5 stars. That's why I'll give it. Nothing really too special, but yeah. But up next, it looks like this one will probably be a really good match. It will be the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion Chris Jericho defending his title against Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, and Sammy Guevara in a fatal 4-way match for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. So yeah, that match will be happening up next. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Until then. So the next thing that happened on AEW Full Gear, it was a fatal 4-way match. It was the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion Chris Jericho versus Sammy Guevara versus Bryan Danielson versus Claudio Castagnoli in a fatal 4-way match for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. In this match, it was a really good match. There was a bunch of cool spots in this match. At one point, we see Claudio and Danielson that had like pretty much both of Jericho's legs, like in a Boston Crab and stuff. Like Claudio had that one leg and Danielson had the other one with a Boston Crab locked on to Jericho. And then Guevara jumps off the top turnbuckle with a cutter onto both of them, breaking up that submission hold. And then there was another cool moment where we see Claudio locking on the sharpshooter onto Jericho, and Jericho's trying to pin Danielson at the same time while Claudio got the sharpshooter locked on to Jericho, but Danielson, got up and locked on the label lock. So yeah, Jericho's trapping the label lock and the sharpshooter by Claudio and Danielson up until Sammy broke up both of the submissions and stuff. And Sammy and Jericho's working together during this match. But obviously, that's when the team pretty much starts breaking apart, you know. At one point, we see Claudio springboard off the second rope, try to hit like the uppercut, but then he gets caught in the air with a code breaker, and Jericho goes for the pin. 1, 2, Sammy breaks up the pin by pulling Jericho off. Jericho pushes Sammy pushes Jericho, and both of them starts going at it and stuff, up until Danielson comes up and starts attacking him, and same for Claudio and stuff, and it was going back and forth. And then at one point we see Guevara, like he was going to be okay with Jericho during this match, try to shake Jericho's hand, but then pretty much baited him into hitting a GTH onto Jericho. He climbs up the top turnbuckle, jumps off with the shooting star press onto Jericho, but Jericho barely kicking out too. And then at one point, Claudio grabs Sammy, throws him over the top rope onto Jericho, and Claudio got hit with the Psycho knee by Danielson, and Danielson almost got the 3 count, but Claudio kicked out at 2. But then we get to the very ending where we see Claudio hitting a neutralizer onto Danielson outside of the ring. He gets back into the ring, hitting the swing onto Guevara, spinning him around and stuff, and then that's when Jericho straight up leap into the swing, hitting a Judas effect onto Claudio. It wasn't the best looking one, but it was alright because it caught Claudio off guard, it looked like, and then Jericho hits a second Judas effect onto Claudio and then pins him for the 3 count. So yeah, Chris Jericho defeated Sammy Guevara, Claudio Castagnoli, and Bryan Danielson tonight in the Fatal 4-Way match to retain the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. That's what happened. Really good match. For that match, I'll give it 4 stars. That's what I'll give it. I like that match. Really good one. But up next, it's going to be an alright match. It's going to be Britt Baker versus Saraya 1-on-1 up next. Saraya's first match in 5 years. So yeah, that match will be happening up next on Full Gear. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Until then. So the next thing that happened on AEW Full Gear, it was a 1-on-1 match. It was Britt Baker versus Saraya 1-on-1. And this is Saraya's first match after 5 years of retiring. So yeah. Saraya's brother was sitting at ringside and stuff in the crowd, and Britt Baker was just mocking Saraya's brother and stuff during this match, and going after Saraya's neck, hitting neck breakers and all that, hitting the curb stomp onto her at one point, and then at one point we see Saraya fighting back, hitting a power bomb onto Britt Baker out of the corner, stuff like a sunset flip onto her, and then hits the cradle DDT onto her, pinning her 1 to Britt Baker, barely kicking out at 2. Britt Baker starts fighting back a little bit, locking on the locked jaw and stuff until Saraya starts reversing it by rolling her up and stuff. But Britt Baker kicked out at 2 again. But then that's when Saraya hits a knee to the face onto Britt Baker, picks her up, hits a second cradle DDT onto her, and then picks her up again, hitting a third cradle DDT onto her, and then pinning her for the 3 count. So yeah, Saraya defeated Britt Baker tonight in her return match after 5 years. It was an okay match, but yeah, it was a good match though. I'll give this match 2.5 stars. That's what I'll give it. It was an okay one. Obviously, Saraya is going to be a little bit rusty, just because, you know, being gone for like 5 years. So yeah, completely understandable. But yeah, like I said, it was an okay match. But up next, we're going to be seeing Wardlow defending the TNT Championship against Powerhouse Hobbs and Samoa Joe up next in a triple threat match for the TNT Championship. So yeah, that match will be happening up next, and yeah, I'll see you guys later until the next thing that happens on AEW Full Gear. See you guys later until then. So the next thing that happened on AEW Full Gear, it was a triple threat match. It was the TNT Champion Wardlow versus the Ring of Honor World Television Champion Samoa Joe versus Powerhouse Hobbs in a triple threat match for the TNT Championship. And it was an okay, pretty good match. All 3 big guys getting their shots in and everything during this match. At the ending of this match, we see Samoa Joe hitting like a suicide dive onto Powerhouse Hobbs and Wardlow outside the ring, and then Powerhouse Hobbs straight up ran into Samoa Joe, knocking him into the barricade. He got Wardlow back into the ring, hitting a spinebuster onto Wardlow, pins him, but Wardlow barely kicking out at 2. Wardlow starts coming back a little bit, hitting some power bombs onto Powerhouse Hobbs, hit 1, and then hits the second one onto him, and he was setting up for the third one, had him up underneath him, about to hit the third power bomb onto Powerhouse Hobbs, and then that's when Samoa Joe comes into the ring, holding the TNT Championship, hitting Wardlow in the back of the head with the title, and then Samoa Joe locks on the Cookie to clutch onto Powerhouse Hobbs, making him tap out. So yeah, Samoa Joe defeated Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs tonight in the triple threat match, and he is the new TNT champion. So yeah, Samoa Joe's now a double champion right now. He is holding the TNT championship and the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. So yeah, I was surprised that Samoa Joe came out the winner, actually. Now, Wardlow has been not used the best now since his feud with MJF, obviously. So that's the bad thing, but I can see why. He dropped the TNT Championship, and Samoa Joe, he's older than both of these guys, but you know what? He's the most experienced one, and we're going to see what he can do, So, yeah, I think it's okay that Samoa Joe is the new TNT champion. We got to see what he can do with it. But, yeah, for that triple threat match, I'll give it 2.5 stars. That's why I'll give it. It was an okay match. But, yeah, up next, we're going to be seeing Sting and Darby Allin versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett up next in a tag team match. So, yeah, that match will be happening up next. And, yeah, see you guys later. Until then. So the next thing to happen on AEW Full Gear, it was a tag team match. It was Darby Allin and Sting versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett with Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh at ringside in a tag team match. Now this match is no disqualification or no count out. So yeah, just no rules in this match. And we start off the match with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal that made their way down to the ring and everything. And they had like a bunch of people dressed up and wearing a Sting mask and all that stuff. Darby Allin was out there, but like in a body bag pretty much. There was a body bag on the stage, and then a bunch of smoke appeared because, Jay Lethal went up to the ramp while Jeff Jarrett stayed in ring. Lethal went up to the ramp to check the body bag with a bunch of those fake stings. But then when the smoke appeared, Darby Allin came out of nowhere, hitting them with a baseball bat or a skateboard, one of the two. I forgot what it was. But yeah, started smacking all of them, and this thing was appeared behind Jeff Jarrett, beating him down. But yeah, we got the match underway, and it was a pretty good one. They at one point, Darby Allin brought in a ladder, tried to hit like a coffin drop off the top of the ladder onto Satnam Singh, but Satnam catches him and then straight up throws him on the stage and stuff on the ramp, which was wild. But then we get to the ending of this match, where at one point Sting got hit with a chokeslam by Satnam Singh, and then Darby Allin actually climbed up the top turnbuckle, jumping off of the coffin drop, but he gets hit in the back with the guitar by Jeff Jarrett, and Darby Allin straight up kicked back up, beating both of them down, Lethal and Jarrett. And then at one point, Sting and Darby Allin beat the hell out of Satnam Singh, where we see a cool spot with Sting hitting a Scorpion Death Drop and Darby Allin hitting the coffin drop onto Satnam Singh at the same exact time, which was pretty cool. And then Jay Lethal tries to hit a lethal injection onto Sting, but Sting catches him with the Scorpion Death Drop, and then pinning him for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, Sting and Darby Allin defeated Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal tonight in the tag team match. That's what happened for that match. I'll give it 3 stars. That's why I'll give it. It was a pretty good, entertaining match. So yeah, that's why I'll give it. But up next, it will be the interim AEW Women's Champion, Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter, 1-on-1 for the title up next. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Until then. So the next thing that happened on AEW Full Gear, it was a women's title match. It was the interim AEW Women's Champion, Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter 1-on-1 for the interim AEW Women's Championship. And it was a pretty good match. It was back and forth and everything. At one point, we see Toni Storm hitting a vicious headbutt onto Jamie Hayter, dropping down to her, pinning her, but she kicked out at 2, and it was just multiple things going on during this match. Like, at one point, we see Rebel come up hitting Toni Storm in the head with the title, with the referees distracted by Jamie Hayter, and then Hayter hitting that vicious clothesline onto her, pinning her, but Storm kicking out at 2, and, it was just back and forth, and Storm at one point hit that vicious clothesline onto Hayter, stealing her finishing move and pinning her, but she kicked out at 2. But then at one point we see Toni Storm getting knocked out of the ring, and then she gets hit with a curb stomp by Britt Baker that came out of nowhere onto the title, and then Britt Baker throws her back into the ring, and then Jamie Hayter hits Storm Zero onto Toni Storm and then pins her, but Storm barely kicking out at 2 again. It was just going back and forth and everything, and then we get to the ending where we see Britt Baker, exposing the turnbuckle. Toni Storm got thrown into her, and Britt Baker got knocked off the turnbuckle and stuff going outside the ring, but she did expose the turnbuckle. Jamie Hayter tossed Toni Storm into the turnbuckle, knocking her out, and then hitting that vicious lariat onto her, and then pinning her for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, Jamie Hayter defeated Toni Storm tonight to become the new interim AEW Women's Champion. That's what happened. It was a pretty good match. I'll give that match 3.5 stars as well. I'll give it a really good match between these two women. But up next, we got the AEW World Tag Team Championship match. The Acclaim versus Swerve in Our Glory up next in the tag team match. And still to come in the main event, it will be Jon Moxley versus MJF for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship later on tonight in the main event. So yeah, 2 more matches to go, and yeah, see you guys later. Until then. So the next thing to happen on AEW Full Gear, this is a long show. We got one more match after this, so yeah, we go with the next match. It was the AEW World Tag Team Champions, Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, the Acclaim, versus Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, Swerve in Our Glory, in a tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. This is the 3rd match between these two teams, and it was a pretty good match. It was going pretty good and everything. At one point, it had steel guardrail, set it up from like a bridge from the ring to the other guardrail and stuff. And at one point, we see Max Caster hit a crossbody on the Keith Lee through that guardrail, which was pretty cool and stuff. And Swerve Strickland was going after Anthony Bowens' arm and stuff multiple times. And then at one point, it looked like the Acclaim was going to win this match, where we see Anthony Bowens taking down Swerve Strickland. Then Max Caster jumped off the top turnbuckle with a mic drop onto Swerve Strickland and pins him, but Keith Lee barely breaking up the pin at the count of 2 and stuff. And then we get to them outside the ring, where Swerve got a pair of pliers about to go after Anthony Bowens' fingers, and then Billy Gunn comes running down, and a bunch of referees had to pull him back and stuff, and they took him backstage, and Anthony Bowens is inside the ring with Swerve Strickland. Keith Lee's in there as well, and then Swerve Strickland gives Keith Lee the pliers to snap Anthony Bowens' fingers, but then Keith Lee said, "No, I'm not going to do that." Swerve Strickland then slaps Keith Lee, and Keith Lee was like, "You know what? Screw this, I'm out." And then he just walks out of the match. And then the Acclaim hit a tag team finish move onto Swerve Strickland, and then they pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. So yeah, the Acclaim defeated Swerve in Our Glory and has retained the AEW World Tag Team Championships. That's what happened. Really good match that I really liked. I think it's probably their best match yet as a tag team match between these two tag teams. Since like All Out, I think it's a better match than their match at All Out and on Dynamite a few weeks ago. So yeah, for this match, I'll give it 4 stars. That's why I'll give it a really good tag team match. But up next, it'll be the main event. It will be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley versus MJF 1-on-1 for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship up next in the main event. And not only that, they did announce that Death Triangle will be taking on the Elite in a best of 7 series for the AEW World Trios Tag Team Championships. So they already had their first match tonight on Full Gear, and then they're going to have more matches still coming the next several weeks up until January. So yeah. But yeah, that's all I got to say, and yeah, see you guys later until the main event. So the next thing that happened on AEW Full Gear 2022, it was the main event. It was the AEW World Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley versus MJF for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship in the main event. Now, William Regal did walk down with Jon Moxley during this match, but he went up out from ringside and stuff. It was a pretty good match between Moxley and MJF. At one point, we see MJF getting hit with a spike power driver by Jon Moxley off the apron through a table and stuff, and then Moxley threw him back in the ring, hitting the paradigm shift onto him, but MJF barely kicking out at 2, and they was going back and forth and everything. Moxley was on the top turnbuckle. MJF then comes up and hits him, hits the top rope and drops Moxley, but Moxley's still up there on the top turnbuckle. MJF climbs up there, trying to hit some, like a superplex or something, but Jon Moxley grabs him, hitting a avalanche paradigm shift off the second turnbuckle, and then he pins him. 1, 2, MJF has the ropes, putting his finger on the rope, so yeah, he got rope breaking that, and they was just going back and forth. MJF almost got the 3 count with a heat seeker onto him, but Moxley kicked out at 2 as well. But then we started going at the ending where the referee accidentally got knocked out because Moxley did have like a sleeper hold onto MJF, and then they bumped into the referee, and then he got that bulldog lock onto him, and MJF starts tapping out, but obviously the referee's knocked out. Another referee came down, and the other referee got taken out as well, and MJF had the ring and stuff, and William Regal comes running down, telling him don't use it and stuff, and then MJF flicks him off, and then Jon Moxley takes down MJF. But then both of them was down. Then William Regal passes over the brass knuckles to MJF, and then MJF hits Jon Moxley and then pins him for the 3 count. So yeah, MJF defeated Jon Moxley. He is the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion. That's what happened. And William Regal turned on Jon Moxley, turning heel and breaking up pretty much the Blackpool Combat Club. So yeah, for that match between MJF and Jon Moxley, I gotta give it 4 stars. That's what I'll give it. It was a pretty good match, and MJF, he needed to become world champion. It's about damn time. So yeah, really good match, like I said. But for tonight's pay-per-view, I gotta give it 9 stars. That's what I'll give it. It was a pretty good pay-per-view. For match of the night, it's probably the the Elite versus Death Triangle. That was a really good one. The Fatal 4-Way match for the ROH World Title was good. Main event was good. Tag Team title match was good. Pretty good matches though. So yeah, subscribe to TNW Wrestling on YouTube. Subscribe to my other channel, Word of Chris, and subscribe to this channel, Chris Mateos. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and both of my TikToks. It'll all be down there in the description box. I'll be doing my Monday Night Raw reviews this Monday, AEW Dynamite Wednesday, SmackDown Friday, and then Survivor Series next Saturday. So yeah, look out for all those, and yeah, see you guys later. Until then.